He is the single deadliest assassin in the world. Even when ordered to surrender his 2 Glock pistols and strip completely naked for a security check, he still manages to fold a piece of A4 paper into a small dagger and eliminate his target. The security personnel monitoring the screens notice absolutely nothing, allowing him to leave the scene with ease. This top-tier hitman, named Cho Bai, immediately receives a new mission: to take out a legendary retired CIA agent. Meanwhile, that retired agent, Frank, is currently in a supermarket shopping for daily supplies with his girlfriend, Sarah. He is thoroughly enjoying this ordinary domestic life, but Sarah feels life is a bit dull, having previously experienced the thrilling lifestyle of a spy. Frank sends Sarah off to buy something else, and then inexplicably speaks a sentence into thin air.
What the hell are you doing here?
It turns out his old partner, fellow retired agent Marvin, has come to find him. Suspicious Marvin thinks someone is coming to get them again. He wants Frank to return to the old line of work with him, but Frank, determined to live a peaceful life, refuses Marvin without hesitation. Even when Sarah suddenly runs back to beg on Marvin's behalf, it doesn't work. Frank hardens his heart and watches Marvin drive away. Just as he is trying to console Sarah, Frank takes Sarah to attend Marvin's memorial service. Looking at Marvin's corpse, Frank simply does not believe Marvin is actually dead, as this wouldn't be the first time he faked death to avoid trouble. To test his suspicion, Frank actually pulls a pin from a wreath and mercilessly drives it into Marvin's palm. But no matter how many times he stabs, Marvin remains completely motionless. Frank finally realizes his old buddy is truly dead. During his eulogy, Frank even tears up slightly. Heavy-hearted, Frank steps out of the chapel, only to be blocked by a group of agents in dark trench coats. A man identifies himself as an FBI agent and demands Frank come in for questioning. Seeing that it is an official government agency, Frank has no way to refuse. He can only obediently allow himself to be handcuffed and taken away. In the interrogation room, the interrogator wants to question Frank about a secret operation from over a decade ago called Project Nightshade, a mission Frank executed in Russia during his youth. And just as they are questioning him, a noise suddenly comes from outside the room. A group of armed men is rapidly approaching. The interrogator rushes out to check the situation, leaving only a young agent to guard Frank. Seeing the heavily equipped militants getting closer, the agent tries to unlock Frank's handcuffs, but he is a step too late. The enemies have already stormed into the interrogation room. The leader is Horton, the commander of a secret CIA ops team. His objective is the same as the FBI's. They are all here for Project Nightshade. Horton knows Frank won't easily say what he wants to hear, so he threatens Frank.
You either give me the information that I need to know, or I'm gonna fillet your girl from head to toe with no mercy.
He thinks he has Frank completely in the palm of his hand, but the man sitting across from him is a veteran agent who has worked his entire life in this field. Frank takes a soldier hostage, but Horton cares nothing for his subordinate's life. He only cares about the target. Frank quickly ducks into a nearby archive room. The soldiers open fire on the room with their HK-416 assault rifles. After a wave of gunfire, Horton orders the soldiers to enter the room and search. A soldier sees his comrade lying on the ground and moves to turn the body over. Immediately, the legendary agent begins to show his power. Frank knocks down several soldiers, but he takes a heavy fall to the ground himself. Just as a soldier reaches him, a gunshot rings out, and a familiar figure appears before Frank's eyes. Frank is incredibly excited to see him. He knew this guy was faking his death. He even wasted 2 tears on this lunatic. What depresses him even more is that Marvin has also brought his girlfriend, Sarah, along. On the road, Marvin tells Frank why so many people are suddenly looking for them. It turns out that 3 days ago, someone leaked all the documents regarding Operation Nightshade on the internet, triggering the attention of intelligence agencies worldwide. Nightshade is actually a massive yield nuclear device developed by the US during the Cold War. It was secretly transported to Moscow with the intent to destroy the city. However, the nuclear device mysteriously disappeared. Professor Bailey, who originally developed and built Nightshade, was the very person Frank and Marvin were assigned to protect in Moscow back then. But the KGB set a trap and killed Professor Bailey. Nightshade is a terrifying existence, and its reappearance is definitely not a good thing. Frank and the others decide to see who is behind this. They examine the leaked documents, and Frank keenly notices an inconspicuous symbol on the file. Frank recognizes it as the exclusive mark of a French information broker named the Frog. He is the source of the leak. Frank, who had already retired, finally decides to come out of the mountains again. He will take his small team to Paris to thoroughly finish the job he left undone over a decade ago. Frank takes Sarah and Marvin to the bustling metropolis of Paris. Sarah is ecstatic. She is finally living the perfect, thrilling life she has seen in novels and movies. However, the moment they arrive at their hotel, they are surrounded front and back by a group of burly men. Immediately after, a woman appears before them. She is clearly here for Frank. She walks right up and kisses him, which makes Sarah furious. Katya is no ordinary person. She is a major in Russian counterintelligence and once had a romantic relationship with Frank. It turns out Katya is in Paris for Nightshade as well. Seeing their goals are the same, both sides decide to team up to catch the Frog first. Since this information broker is notoriously alert, Frank repeatedly warns Sarah not to stare at his eyes, or she will easily blow their cover. Sarah agrees readily, but being completely inexperienced, the moment she enters the cafe, she stares wide-eyed at the Frog, who is in the middle of an intelligence transaction. This exposes them completely. The Frog pulls out a micro Uzi and sprays bullets at Frank's group, then runs out of the cafe. Frank rushes to chase him, only to find the Frog has hijacked a motorcycle and sped away. Before Frank can even feel frustrated, Katya roars over in a sports car. Frank hurriedly jumps into the black Porsche 911 Carrera GTS and initiates a wild, high-speed chase through the streets of Paris. But unexpectedly, Sarah, unwilling to show weakness, drives a 1979 Chevrolet El Camino and smashes her way through traffic. To prove she is no worse than Katya, Sarah chases the Frog into an alley. Suddenly, the Frog is knocked down. Frank and Katya arrive on the scene. Seeing Frank and Katya together, Sarah feels like she's about to lose her mind. Although the Frog is captured, he refuses to reveal any useful information. Just as Katya prepares to use torture, Sarah suddenly volunteers to give it a try. The Frog's demeanor changes completely. Blushing, he voluntarily hands over a key to his bank safety deposit box. It seems Sarah won this round. The next day, as Marvin and Frank chat casually on their way to the bank, Frank suddenly notices something unusual reflected in a TV behind them. He quickly pulls Marvin to the ground. It is Cho Bai. He unleashes wildfire from a GAU-17 machine gun at Frank, and the dense stream of bullets instantly shreds a van to pieces. Besides the standard assassination contract, Cho Bai holds an old grudge against Frank because Frank once stole his private luxury jet. So Cho Bai wants nothing more than to tear him into pieces. Pinned down by the firepower, Frank can only turn to Marvin for help. Cho Bai senses something is wrong and runs over to check, only to find they have already escaped through the sewers. After surviving this small storm, they arrive at the Paris bank, only to find Katya has been caught and taken away by French special police. It turns out Katya had tried to steal their key earlier, but the clever Marvin switched it, leaving her to steal the key to a French terrorist's safe instead. Having dealt with their Russian competitor, they open the Frog's safe and find an MI6 report regarding Nightshade. It contains a crucial piece of information. The agent who planted the Nightshade nuclear bomb in Moscow back then is being held by MI6 in a secret prison, even now. They decide to head to the UK. The moment they step onto British soil, they run into a familiar face. Retired MI6 female agent Victoria. Frank can't figure out how she knew they were coming, and he doesn't notice that Marvin's expression looks a bit uneasy. But this is good, because Victoria is here to help them. The retired squad gains another member. With Victoria's help, they locate the secret MI6 prison. It is actually disguised as a mental asylum, holding Britain's most important prisoners. Frank and Victoria put on white coats, posing as doctors, neutralize all the security guards, and break into the innermost cell. Inside this cell, an elderly man who already shows signs of madness is being held. Frank never expected that this man is Professor Bailey, who was supposedly killed by the KGB over a decade ago. He didn't die. He has been locked up here by MI6 the whole time, and he is the last person who knows the location of the Nightshade nuclear bomb. Frank breaks Bailey out of the secret prison and flies him to Moscow. They must find that terrifying Nightshade bomb before it falls into the hands of bad guys. However, Bailey has been locked up for 32 years, and his mental state is off. He completely fails to remember the hidden location of the nuclear bomb, only leading them to wander aimlessly along the streets. Just then, Marvin senses someone tracking them. While he is looking around, a person who terrifies him appears behind him. Cho Bai has caught up again. Frank is no match for Cho Bai and is beaten back repeatedly. Just then, 2 police officers spot the commotion and rush over. Cho Bai doesn't care and knocks the patrol officers to the ground. Frank seizes the chance to pounce, using handcuffs to chain Cho Bai's hand to a freezer handle. He leaves Cho Bai to the large number of Russian police, but Frank underestimated Cho Bai. After a fierce struggle in the cramped convenience store, Cho Bai manages to knock out all the police officers using the iron freezer door locked to his hand. But he lets Frank escape once again. Meanwhile, to evade their opponent, Frank takes everyone to his safe house in Moscow from decades ago. This is also a place where Bailey stayed while in Moscow. The environment of the room jogs Bailey's memory. He starts to recall things from decades ago, including the location of the nuclear bomb. So, the group continues searching the streets. They pass through various alleyways and finally arrive at a wide plaza. Bailey finally locates the ultimate position of Nightshade. It is right underneath the Kremlin. The small team smashes a hole in a nearby basement and travels through a tunnel to the maintenance room directly below the Kremlin. Now, they need to find the nuke, but the tunnel entrance needs someone to guard it. If they are discovered, no one will escape. This arduous task naturally falls to Sarah. Marvin even prepares a set of Russian military fatigues for her. Frank looks helplessly at his adventure-loving girlfriend. Sarah is arranged to stand guard at the maintenance room door. Frank and Marvin, led by Bailey, arrive at an abandoned utility room. Bailey finds a suitcase inside a wall cavity. Inside is the super nuclear bomb he developed, Nightshade. Just as they are preparing to take the nuke, a person with a gun stands at the door. It is Katya. She wants to keep this nuke for Russia, but Frank painstakingly persuades her, arguing that this weapon shouldn't exist in the world, that it belongs to no government or agency, and for the safety and peace of mankind, it must be destroyed. Under Frank's emotional and logical persuasion, Katya lowers her gun. Meanwhile, Sarah is standing guard at the door. A Russian officer sees her beauty and comes over to flirt, but Sarah doesn't understand a word of his Russian. To stall for time, Sarah has to resort to her charm again. She grabs the young officer by the neck and starts kissing him. Just then, Frank and the others arrive with the bomb case. Seeing Sarah kissing another man again, Frank is absolutely furious. Marvin calms down Frank and Sarah, who are about to argue, and the group rushes to take the nuke back the way they came. They successfully return to the safe house, raising glasses to celebrate saving the world. But Frank's phone suddenly rings. It is Victoria calling from the UK. Her tone is anxious. She seems to have critical information for Frank.
MI6 didn't lock him up because he created the weapon, but because he wants to see it go off.
That was Victoria, wasn't it?
Frank only then realizes that everything about Bailey before was a disguise he faked himself. He has been acting up until now just to use Frank to reclaim Nightshade. Bailey orders everyone in the safe house to put down their guns, and then he opens the safe house door. The CIA secret ops team arrives. It turns out Bailey has defected to the CIA, taking the nuke with him. Before leaving, Bailey shoots Katya. He wants to pin everything here on Frank. Frank sorrowfully holds the cooling body of Katya. She ultimately dies in his arms. Immediately after, a large number of Russian soldiers surround them. Because of the break-in at the Kremlin and the shooting of a Russian officer, Frank and his group are taken to the outskirts for execution. Sudden gunshots interrupt the execution. It is Victoria. She has arrived and is methodically sniping from a distant hill. Her old lover, Ivan, is lying next to her. Just like that, they save Frank and the others. On the other side, Bailey and Horton arrive at the airport together. Bailey thinks everything is going as he imagined, flying to London to detonate Nightshade and take revenge on MI6 for imprisoning him for so many years. But unexpectedly, Horton handcuffs him directly, intending to take him back to the US to continue his imprisonment. After all, it's no longer the Cold War. They couldn't possibly help a madman bomb the UK. Bailey is locked in a cage on the transport plane. Seeing the soldiers around him are asleep, he quietly takes off his leather shoe. It turns out he hid a deadly neurotoxin he secretly developed in the heel of his shoe. He injects himself with the antidote in the neck, then smashes the toxin vial on the floor. Several soldiers try to open the cage to get the antidote from him, but they succumb to the poison and fall, ironically, unlocking the cage that releases the demon. Back at the airport, Frank has learned from Ivan that the plane controlled by Bailey has flown to London. According to reliable sources, Bailey intends to sell Nightshade to the Iranian embassy in London. Frank feels this is a grave matter. They must stop this transaction immediately. He rushes to the hangar, wanting to find a mechanic to determine the earliest departure time. But as soon as he walks into the hangar, he sees the mechanic lying motionless in the corner. It turns out Cho Bai has arrived again. The two engage in a fierce battle. Actually, the two used to be good friends, but later turned against each other due to various reasons. During the fight, Frank constantly tries to persuade Cho Bai to help him stop the nuclear explosion. Finally, when both are covered in blood, Frank convinces Cho Bai to stop. Meanwhile, several people enjoying a feast on a luxury private jet are completely stunned when they see Cho Bai walk in. Cho Bai snatches the gourmet food from their hands and starts eating it himself. After all, this plane belongs to him. The retired agent squad arrives in London. Before the operation begins, Frank gives Sarah a unique gift. Not a diamond ring or a necklace, but an exquisite SIG pistol. Sarah is overjoyed seeing this gift. Seeing a group of Iranians enter a restaurant, they compose themselves and begin the operation. Frank deliberately slaps Sarah hard and walks away cursing. Sarah, who is naturally charming, attracts the attention of the nearby Iranian ambassador. But she is actually seriously executing the mission. She jabs a poison needle into the ambassador's leg, then uses her gun to force him to take the squad into the interior of the Iranian embassy. Meanwhile, Bailey has already arrived in a secret room with high-ranking Iranian military officials carrying Nightshade. He has received the massive payment transferred by the Iranian military, and now he begins his true, final act. He stabs everyone in the room to death with a dagger, then activates the countdown for the Nightshade explosion. He intends to detonate the nuke in London to exact revenge for his 32-year imprisonment here. When Frank and the trio rush into the secret room, they see a room full of corpses and the counting down nuke. They have no choice but to grab the nuke and try to leave the embassy first. But unexpectedly, during a firefight with Iranian guards, Sarah is captured by Bailey, who hadn't left yet. He holds Sarah hostage and gets on an elevator right in front of Frank. Bailey drives away from the embassy in a sedan with Sarah. Victoria, who has been guarding downstairs, fires several shots but fails to stop Bailey's car. Just then, a sports car pulls up in front of Victoria. She quickly gets in, and the driver is none other than Cho Bai. The sports car chases Bailey all the way, while Iranian bodyguards pursue them from behind. Even more of a headache, London police cars also arrive ahead. While they deal with the trouble, Frank and Marvin hijack an Iranian embassy helicopter and take to the skies. They follow Bailey's car all the way. This is the direction to the airport. Frank frantically tries to disable the nuke's countdown, but knowing nothing about bomb disposal, he snips wires randomly, which only accelerates the countdown speed. On the road, the pursuing Iranian gunmen spray the helicopter with bullets. In the chaos, they kill the pilot and damage the rotor. Frank, who doesn't know how to fly, pulls the stick in vain, and the helicopter crashes heavily nose first. The helicopter crashes onto the airport grass. Marvin, dazed from the crash, sees the nuke is undamaged, but the countdown has only 16 minutes left. Frank carries the bomb case, flags down an airport vehicle, and drives rapidly to the private jet. He walks into the plane and finally sees Bailey, who is holding Sarah hostage. Under Bailey's threat, for the sake of his lover, Frank is forced to put down his gun. Bailey releases Sarah, allowing her to return to Frank's side, and then orders them to take Nightshade off the plane. Bailey closes the plane door. He has ultimately won the victory. The entire agent squad gathers around Frank. Watching Frank holding the case and the private jet flying far into the sky, they all think they have failed and are about to be buried in a nuclear explosion. Inside the plane, Bailey hums a tune happily, his mood incomparably high. But then he hears a trace of an unusual sound. He goes into the cabin, follows the sound, and opens a compartment, only to discover the nuclear device Frank had secretly hidden inside just moments ago. The countdown is already ending. A massive mushroom cloud explodes in the sky. Everyone is very happy to have survived again, but Cho Bai feels very upset because that private jet was his. He angrily demands Frank pay him $50 million, or he will kill him. But Frank just treats his words as wind blowing past his ears. And this group of retired agents seems like they will never stop. They will continue to adventure around the world forever.